1532, Florence. A man sits alone in exile, writing by candlelight. Niccolò Machiavelli, politician, diplomat, strategist. He had served the Republic for 14 years. Then it fell. The Medici returned, and Machiavelli was cast out, tortured, stripped of power, left with nothing but his mind. And in that darkness, he wrote something that would horrify Europe for 500 years. But here's what they don't tell you. Machiavelli didn't write one book, he wrote two. The Prince, everyone knows that one. The Manual for Tyrants, the Guide to Ruthless Power. But before The Prince, there was another work, the Discourses, longer, deeper, more dangerous. And in it, Machiavelli revealed something that most people still refuse to accept, a truth so uncomfortable, so contrary to everything we've been taught, that we've spent centuries trying to bury it. He said, being good makes you invisible. Being moral makes you weak. Being virtuous makes you prey. Not sometimes, not in extreme cases, always. Machiavelli looked at human nature without the filter of religion, without the comfort of philosophy, without any illusion. And what he saw shattered everything. He saw that the world doesn't reward goodness, it punishes it. That virtue isn't strength, it's a blind spot, that the people who play by the rules are the ones who lose. And he warned, if you don't understand this, you will be destroyed, not by evil people, but by those who understand what you refuse to see. Most people read Machiavelli and think he's teaching you to be cruel. He's not. He's teaching you to see clearly, to recognize the game being played around you, the game where goodness is a liability, where trust is a weapon used against you, where the virtuous man ends up crushed by those who smile while they destroy him. 5 centuries later, nothing has changed. The rules are the same, the patterns are the same, the trap is the same, and most people are still walking right into it. This is the Hidden Codex, where we don't repeat comfortable lies, we reveal uncomfortable truths. Before we go deeper, if you sense there's more to power than what society teaches, if you're ready to see what Machiavelli actually meant, subscribe to the Hidden Codex. Turn on notifications, because what comes next cannot be unlearned. Let's continue. Machiavelli opens chapter 15 of The Prince with these words. Many have imagined republics and principalities that have never been seen or known to exist in reality. For there is such a distance between how one lives and how one ought to live, that he who abandons what is done for what ought to be done learns his ruin rather than his preservation. Read that again. He who abandons what is done for what ought to be done learns his ruin rather than his preservation. Machiavelli is telling you, the world you think exists doesn't. The world where goodness is rewarded, where virtue triumphs, where doing the right thing leads to success. That world is imaginary, a fairy tale, a trap. The real world operates on different principles, darker principles, and if you refuse to see them, if you keep acting as if the fairy tale is real, you will be destroyed. Not metaphorically, actually destroyed. Let me show you how this works. You believe that being kind, being fair, being honest will make people respect you. That if you treat others well, they'll treat you well in return. That goodness generates goodness. Machiavelli studied history. Every empire, every leader, every rise and fall. And here's what he found. The good people don't win. They don't even survive. They get used, manipulated, discarded. Because here's the pattern he saw. When you're good, people don't respect you. They test you. They probe for weakness. They see how much they can take before you push back. And when you don't push back, when you turn the other cheek, when you forgive, when you give them another chance, they don't think you're virtuous. They think you're weak, and they take more. Machiavelli watched this happen over and over. The merciful prince overthrown by the ruthless one. The honest politician destroyed by the liar. The faithful friend betrayed by the opportunist. And he realized, goodness doesn't protect you. It marks you as a target. Think about your own life. How many times have you been kind to someone only to have them take advantage? How many times have you trusted someone only to be betrayed? How many times have you played fair while others cheated? And what happened? Did the universe reward your virtue? Did karma punish them? Or did they win while you learned a painful lesson? Machiavelli saw this pattern everywhere. In politics, in business, in relationships, in every domain where humans interact, the same dynamic. The good people lose, the ruthless people win, not because the universe is unjust, but because that's how human nature actually works. He wrote in the discourses, "Men are more ready to repay an injury than a benefit, because gratitude is a burden and revenge a pleasure." Let that sink in. Gratitude is a burden. Revenge is a pleasure. Machiavelli is telling you that when you do good for someone, you're not creating an ally. You're creating a debtor. And people hate being indebted. It makes them feel small, obligated, uncomfortable. So what do? They distance themselves. They minimize what you did. They find reasons why you don't deserve gratitude. They might even resent you for it. But when someone wrongs you, that's different. That creates energy, motivation, a sense of purpose. Revenge doesn't feel like a burden. It feels like justice, like power, like satisfaction. This is human nature, not the version we want to believe in, the actual version, the one Machiavelli observed without flinching. And here's where it gets darker. Machiavelli noticed something else, something that explains why good people stay invisible. When you're good, when you're predictable, when you always do the right thing, people stop seeing you, not because you're unimportant, but because you're safe, harmless, known. There's no tension around you, no danger, no mystery. You become background, furniture, something people assume will always be there, always be the same, always be available. But the person who's unpredictable, the one who might help you or might hurt you, the one who sometimes rewards and sometimes punishes, that person commands attention. That person is seen. That person has presence. Machiavelli understood this. He wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." Everyone quotes that line, but they miss what comes next. He explains why. Because love is fickle. It depends on the other person's feelings, their mood, their circumstances, and when it's convenient, when it benefits them, people will abandon their love. They'll betray you. They'll forget what you did for them. But fear is reliable. Fear keeps people in check, not because they want to respect you, but because they're afraid of what you might do. And here's the crucial part. Machiavelli isn't saying to rule through terror. He's saying something more subtle. He's saying, if people don't think you're capable of harm, they won't respect your goodness. They'll exploit it. Your kindness only has value if people believe you're choosing not to hurt them. If they think you're kind because you're weak, because you can't do anything else, then your kindness is worthless. It's just expected. But if they know you could destroy them and you're choosing not to, that kindness has weight. That kindness commands respect. Machiavelli saw this in every successful leader. They weren't purely good or purely evil. They were capable of both, and people never knew which version they'd encounter. That uncertainty created respect, created attention, created power. The purely good leader, overthrown; the purely evil leader, revolted against. But the leader who could be either, who kept people guessing, that leader endured. So how does this work in practice? Let's say you're in a workplace. You're the person who always helps, always says yes, always covers for others, always takes on extra work. What happens? Do people appreciate you? Do they promote you? Do they protect you when cuts come? Or do they take you for granted? Assume you'll always be there? Pass you over for the aggressive colleague who demands recognition? Machiavelli would say, your goodness made you invisible, not because you're not valuable, but because you're too safe. There's no risk in ignoring you, no consequence in overlooking you, no danger in taking advantage of you. But what if you said no sometimes? What if you let a project fail because you didn't step in? What if you made it clear that your help wasn't guaranteed but earned? Suddenly, you're visible. Suddenly, your contribution matters, not because you became cruel, but because you became unpredictable, because people realized your goodness was a choice, not a weakness. Machiavelli wrote in the discourses, Whoever believes that great men are influenced by new benefits to forget old injuries is deceived. Think about that. You hurt someone, then you try to make up for it with kindness. Will they forgive? Will they forget? Machiavelli says no. The injury remains. The resentment stays. Your kindness doesn't erase it. It just makes you look weak for trying. But here's the flip side. If someone hurts you and you retaliate, and then you're magnanimous, that works. Why? Because you demonstrated power first. You showed you're not someone who can be harmed without consequence. And only then, from that position of strength, does mercy have meaning. This is the pattern Machiavelli saw everywhere. Power first, kindness second, never the other way around. Because if you're kind first, people assume it's all you have. They assume you're good because you're weak. And they'll test that assumption. They'll push. They'll take until you prove otherwise. But if you demonstrate power first, if you show what you're capable of, then your kindness becomes strategic, purposeful, respected. Let me give you a modern example. You're negotiating a contract. You could be fair, reasonable, collaborative. Suggest terms that benefit both sides. Make it easy for everyone. And what happens? The other side sees weakness. They push for more. They chip away at every term. They make demands. They delay. Because they sense you want this to go smoothly, that you value the relationship, that you won't walk away. But what if you start aggressive? What if you demand terms heavily in your favor? What if you make it clear you're perfectly willing to walk away? Suddenly, they take you seriously. Suddenly, when you compromise, it means something, because now they know you're not compromising out of weakness. You're compromising strategically. Same outcome, maybe, but you arrive there from a position of strength, not from a position of hopeful niceness. Machiavelli saw this dynamic in every interaction. The person who starts strong can always soften, but the person who starts soft can never harden. Once people see you as harmless, that image is set, and trying to change it just makes you look inconsistent, confused, desperate. Now here's where most people misunderstand Machiavelli. They think he's telling you to be a sociopath, to manipulate everyone, to trust no one, to see every interaction as warfare. He's not. He's telling you to see clearly, to recognize the game being played, so you can choose how to play it. Machiavelli himself wasn't cruel. He was loyal. He served the Republic faithfully. He believed in civic virtue, in the common good, in building something greater than himself. But he also understood that idealism without power is useless, that good intentions don't matter if you can't protect them, that virtue in a world of vice needs to be defended with the same tools vice uses. He wrote, "A man who wishes to make a profession of goodness in everything must necessarily come to grief among so many who are not good. Therefore, it is necessary for a prince who wishes to maintain himself to learn how not to be good, and to use this knowledge or not use it according to necessity." Read that carefully. Learn how not to be good, not become evil, but learn how to operate without goodness when necessary, and then choose, strategically, based on the situation. This is what Machiavelli meant by virtù, not virtue in the moral sense, but effectiveness, adaptability, the ability to do what the moment requires, even if what it requires goes against your nature, against your values, against what you were taught is right. Because here's what Machiavelli understood. The world doesn't care about your moral purity. It doesn't reward your consistency. It doesn't protect you because you're a good person. The world responds to power, to results, to what you can do and what you will do. And if you refuse to develop that side of yourself, if you stay purely good, purely moral, purely virtuous, you will be destroyed by someone who isn't. Not because evil always wins, but because power always wins. And power doesn't care if it's used by saints or monsters. Machiavelli watched the best people of his era destroyed, the most virtuous leaders overthrown, the most idealistic movements crushed, and he realized their goodness didn't save them. It's what got them killed. Because their enemies weren't limited by morality. Their enemies would lie, betray, manipulate, kill, and the good people, bound by their principles, couldn't respond in kind. So they lost, every time. Not because they were weak, but because they refused to use the weapons available to them. Machiavelli wrote The Prince as a warning, as a manual for survival in a world where everyone else plays dirty. He was saying, this is how it actually works. This is what people actually do. If you want to survive, if you want to protect what matters to you, you need to understand this. And then you need to decide, will you use these tools? Will you learn to play the game? Or will you cling to your ideals and hope the universe rewards you? Most people choose hope. They convince themselves that integrity is enough, that honesty will prevail, that goodness creates its own protection. And Machiavelli watched those people fail. For 14 years in politics, for centuries in history, the pattern never changed. The good people lose, the aware people win. And the tragedy is, the aware people aren't necessarily bad. They just understand what the good people refuse to see. There's a story Machiavelli tells about Cesare Borgia, one of the most ruthless men in Italian history. Brutal, cunning, willing to do anything. Borgia took over the Romagna region. It was chaos, crime, corruption, warring factions. So Borgia appointed a deputy, Ramiro de Orco, a cruel man, and he gave him one job: restore order, by any means necessary. De Orco did. He was merciless. Executions, torture, terror. But the region stabilized. Crime dropped. Peace returned. Then, once order was established, Borgia had De Orco arrested, put him on trial, found him guilty of excessive cruelty, and executed him in public. His body cut in half and displayed in the town square. Why? Machiavelli explains. Borgia needed the cruelty to establish control, but he didn't want to be hated for it. So he used De Orco as a tool. Let him be the villain. Then he killed him, and the people were relieved. They saw Borgia as delivering them from a tyrant, even though Borgia was the one who created the tyrant in the first place. That's Machiavellian strategy, not just doing what's necessary, but controlling the narrative, making sure your power is feared, but your image is protected. Most people reading that are horrified. They think, that's manipulation, that's evil, I would never do that. And Machiavelli would say, then you will never accomplish anything difficult, because difficult things require hard choices, and hard choices require someone to bear the cost. The question isn't whether you're willing to be good. The question is, are you willing to do what's necessary to protect what you care about, even if it means using methods you were taught to despise? Most people say no. They'd rather lose with their morals intact than win by compromising them. And Machiavelli saw that as the ultimate form of selfishness. Because when you refuse to get your hands dirty, when you insist on staying pure, you're not being virtuous. You're being self-centered. You're prioritizing your moral comfort over the people depending on you. A leader who refuses to lie when a lie would save lives. A leader who refuses to break a promise when breaking it would prevent disaster. A leader who clings to honor while their people suffer. Machiavelli would say, that's not virtue, that's vanity. You're sacrificing others to maintain your self-image. Real virtue, the kind Machiavelli respected, is doing what the situation requires, even when it costs you, even when it stains you, even when history judges you harshly. Because the goal isn't to be remembered as good, the goal is to accomplish something that matters. And here's what Machiavelli saw that most people miss. The people who succeed, who build lasting things, who actually change the world, they understand this. They might not admit it. They might disguise it. But they know. They know that power comes before morality, that effectiveness precedes ethics, that you have to establish control before you can afford to be good. Look at any successful movement, any enduring institution, any leader who actually accomplished something difficult. They all followed this pattern. They secured power first, made compromises, did questionable things, and only once they had stability, once they had control, did they implement their ideals. The leaders who tried to be good from the start, they failed. They were overthrown. They were outmaneuvered by those willing to play the game. And Machiavelli is telling you, if you care about your goals, if you actually want to achieve something, you need to accept this. You need to learn the rules. you need to develop the capability. Not because power is good, but because without power, your goodness is irrelevant. You want to change your company? You need power first. You want to protect your family? You need power first. You want to create something lasting? You need power first. And power doesn't come from being nice. It comes from being effective, from understanding how humans actually work, from being willing to do what others won't. Machiavelli saw this tested over and over. The gentle reformer versus the ruthless pragmatist, the idealist versus the strategist, the good person versus the effective person. And every time, the effective person won, not because they were smarter, not because they were luckier, but because they understood the game, and they played to win. The good person? They played to maintain their self-image, to feel virtuous, to be able to say, at least I didn't compromise my values. And they lost, and their values died with them, because values without power are just fantasies. But here's the final piece, the part that makes this truly dark. Machiavelli realized that the people who succeed using these methods eventually convince themselves they're good. They rewrite the story. They justify their actions. They claim everything they did was necessary, was noble, was for the greater good. And maybe it was. Maybe the ends do justify the means. Maybe being ruthless in service of something important is actually virtuous. Or maybe they're just rationalizing. Maybe they became the thing they were fighting. Maybe the game changed them. Machiavelli never answers that question. He just shows you the mechanism, shows you how power actually works, and then leaves you to decide. Will you stay good and stay invisible? Will you maintain your virtue and watch others win? Will you cling to your principles while the world moves on without you? Or will you learn the game? Will you develop the capability? Will you accept that effectiveness sometimes requires methods that make you uncomfortable? There's no right answer. There's only the choice and the consequences. Machiavelli made his choice. He served the Republic. He stayed loyal even when it cost him everything. And when he lost, when he was exiled and tortured, he didn't regret his service. But he did write down what he learned. He wrote it so others wouldn't have to learn it the hard way. So the next generation of leaders might be both good and effective, both moral and powerful, both virtuous and strategic. But most people never read past the shocking parts. They see the ruthlessness and they stop. They miss the deeper message, the warning, the invitation. Machiavelli is telling you the world is darker than you think. People are more selfish than you believe. Power operates on principles that contradict everything you were taught. And if you refuse to see this, you will be used. You will be manipulated. You will be destroyed. Not by monsters, but by ordinary people who understand what you don't. So the question is, are you ready to see? Are you ready to accept that goodness by itself is not enough? That virtue needs to be protected with the same tools vice uses? Or will you look away? Will you convince yourself that the world rewards goodness, that playing fair is its own reward, that your intentions matter more than your results? Most people look away. They choose the comfortable lie. They stay good, stay invisible, stay safe in their self-image. And Machiavelli watches from 500 years ago, knowing exactly what will happen to them. Because he saw it happen 1,000 times, and nothing has changed. The patterns remain, the game continues, and the good people keep losing. But you're still here. You listened this far. So maybe you're different. Maybe you're ready to see what others refuse to acknowledge. If this revealed something you suspected but couldn't name, subscribe to the Hidden Codex, because we don't stop at comfortable truths. We go into the shadows, into the mechanisms, into what they don't teach you. Next time, we'll explore Carl Jung's darkest discovery, the thing that almost destroyed his mind. You don't want to miss that. Until then, stay awake.